And after 3 years of lies and smears and slander, the Russia hoax is finally dead. The collusion delusion is over. The special counsel completed its report and found no collusion and no obstruction. I could have told you that 2.5 years ago very easily. The Russia witch hunt was a plan by those who lost the election to try and illegally regain power by framing innocent Americans, many of them. They suffered with an elaborate hoax. This was nothing more than a sinister effort to undermine our historic election victory and to sabotage the will of the American people. Little pencil neck Adam Schiff. He's got the smallest, thinnest neck I've ever seen. He is not a long ball hitter. But I saw him today. Well, we don't really know. There could still have been some Russia collusion. Sick. These are sick people. And all of the current and former officials who paid for, promoted, and perpetuated the single greatest hoax in the history of politics in our country. They have to be, I'm sorry, they have to be accountable.
All right, guys, it's been brought back up. The Russia collusion hoax. And looks like some people are about to be charged. Let's see what Fox has to say.
On our breaking news, Brooks Singman of Fox News Digital has discovered exclusively that the FBI is now investigating the former CIA Director John Brennan and the former FBI Director James Comey in conjunction with the genesis of the Russia investigation. This comes after the CIA declassified last week a report into how that all came about. Let's bring in our panel to talk more about this. Andy Linsky, the White House reporter for the Wall Street.
If you remember, basically, they made up a story about Trump and Russia collusion in the 2016 election in order to try to swing the election towards Hillary Clinton. It was a despicable thing that our country had to face, and somebody's about to face justice, hopefully.
Journal USA Today White House correspondent Francesca Chambers and Josh Holmes, co-host of the Ruthless podcast and former chief of staff to Senator Mitch McConnell. And he started us off here, the fact that the FBI is looking into Brennan and Comey now. When this declassified CIA report came out, people said, will prosecutions follow? We don't know if it'll be a prosecution, but it's an investigation at this point.
Yeah, this is certainly the logical next step from last week's news. And it does really underscore, I think, the extent to which this Russia investigation that occurred in 2017, I believe, has stayed under the president's skin and sort of in his craw. He has personally sued members of the Pulitzer board for giving a Pulitzer Prize to the Washington Post and the New York Times kind of surrounding on this topic. So
so people got awards for reporting on something fake. And Trump's whole first administration was hamstrung by this investigation. It was ridiculous, and somebody should go to jail for it.
I think this sort of move fits into this broader concern that the president has about this moment.
Josh, I talked to Ratcliffe about this declassified report last week. He said, look, this is the director of analysis. This is a person who's been at the CIA through several administrations and directors. He has full faith that this is an accurate report.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously new information, but it also corroborates what many of us who've been watching this since 2016 have known all along, which is you had nefarious actors within the intelligence community that were putting their thumb on the scale. I mean, recall just a trip down memory
Obviously.
lane. It was Brennan himself was the one who was pushing then Speaker Ryan and then Majority Leader
Yes.
Mitch McConnell to try to issue a statement before the 2016 election alleging Russian interference on behalf of President Trump. Now, obviously,
Crazy.
they refused to do that, which then became a big discussion in the Comey, all the Comey investigation and everything else. But this is what kicked it off. It was very, very clearly an inside campaign hatched up somewhere. But these folks were in the middle of it, and I think this investigation is a long time coming.
Donald Trump insisted, Francesca, all along that there was nothing to this Russia collusion investigation. It would appear that history has proven him correct. You can wonder, well, how'd this all get going in the first place?
And to pick up on what Annie was saying, I mean, just today we heard the president again bring up during his cabinet meeting the Russia. So this is clearly something that he continues to be upset about. And
Obviously.
you were talking about the last presidential campaign as well. I mean, this was something that he brought up repeatedly on the campaign trail and has talked about ad nauseum. So to Annie's point, you know, to hear now that this is something that would be under investigation, which again, this is breaking news, is not particularly surprising.
Again, this is the beginning of it.
So somebody should go to jail for this. This is ridiculous that somebody can frame a president and nothing happens. In fact, the Russia collusion was such a hoax and it ruined his first presidency so much. Now, I'm not saying it ruined it. He was still able to get stuff done, but not at the speed he's getting stuff done at this point. I think they should be able to somehow say he can get another term. Wouldn't that make the Democrats explode? But because they ruined it. The intelligence officials ruined his first term, partially because of the Russia hoax.
Steve Witkoff, very optimistic that he might get a deal on Gaza. This is Francesca's wisdom last night, along with a couple of her colleagues, writing in USA Today about who would control security of Gaza if a deal is eventually struck. Netanyahu said Israel would have to retain control of security over Gaza rather than a complete state. I think the Palestinians should have all the powers to govern themselves, but none of the powers to threaten us, he said. That means a certain power, like overall security, will always remain in our hands. Now, that is a fact that no one in Israel will agree to anything else because we don't commit suicide.
Obviously. So Trump's making deals all over the world. He has these peace deals. Looks like he's going to get one in Gaza, hopefully. But obviously, Israel has to remain the security of that area. You can't give the Palestinians rockets and bombs because they're just going to shoot them at Israel. They'll walk into a crowd and blow themselves up. So Israel has to remain in control of the security in that area.
You know, there was some talk that Israel didn't want to get bogged down in another occupation, security or otherwise, of Gaza. Looks like that's changed.
Yeah, and you know, Netanyahu right now, as we speak, is at the White House. I believe he's still there, and we know he came in to meet again with the president to talk about Gaza. And I think what Francesca's great question last night and her reporting is showing is this framework kind of firming up around what the United States, at least, is hoping a peace deal would look like. And you know, of course, when Witkoff today in the cabinet meeting referenced a possibility of a pause in fighting for 60 days, he was also saying he hopes it's the beginning of the absolute end of fighting, so the pause would extend.
Did you get any sense, Francesca, of how the security arrangement might work? And I mean, Hamas has got to agree to something. I don't know if they agree to their demise or how it goes, but what did you get from that?
I actually asked the president last night if he was hoping to make a deal, if he thought one could be made in the room last night, if they essentially thought that there was anything that Israel still needed to agree to in this. And the president said that he thought that things were essentially going fine with the proposal for a ceasefire. With respect to the question I had asked last night, it was about a two-state solution and whether or not the president still thought that there could be an independent Palestinian state here. And what was really interesting about the exchange was that he directed the question to the Israeli prime minister and said, well, you have him sitting here. He could answer this age-old question. So the president didn't want to be the one to stipulate those terms. He wanted to hear what Bibi Netanyahu said, and it was the Israeli prime minister who then ends up answering that question.
Joshua, talk with.
So here's the deal with Israel and Palestine. Israel wants to live in peace. Now, maybe they've gone a little bit too far in Gaza. I don't know. But for the majority of the last 20 years, the rockets have been shot at Israel. The Palestinians go blow themselves up in crowds in Israel. Israel wants peace. And the Palestinians, to be honest, don't want peace. So until the Palestinians start loving their children more than they hate Israel, they'll never have peace. They have to love their children more than they hate Israel. And right now, that's not the case.
An administration official last week who said that Hamas knows that there's no future for them in Gaza. The question is, what's the out for them? Do you put them on a ship like you did the PLO in 1982? Apparently, Hamas doesn't want the photo of the so-called perp walk of them leaving Gaza. So how do you come to an agreement with them that ends this war, gives Israel security, and allows Palestinian people to rebuild?
Just let them go.
I don't think they're in a place of tremendous leverage at this point. I think they're sort of all out of cards.
If they want to end that fighting over there, let Hamas go and catch back up with them later. Get a beeper on them or something.
I think this is something that it's not surprising at all that Israel would want security assurances. It falls into the category of fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 80,000 times over 80 years, shame on me.
So
I mean,
true.
they are going to make assurances that it can't reconstitute itself and harm the Israeli people. That's a baseline deal. Where this whole thing ends, look, I think President Trump has had a remarkably pragmatic approach to this, where he has taken both sides, where he has a definitive opinion of who's in the right and who's in the wrong, but his goal is to try to drive towards an end solution. I think we are much closer now than we've been in decades.
Well, see, Witkoff is very optimistic about it. I want to quickly touch on Ukraine because Andy got the quote of the day from the president in the cabinet room when asked about Putin and Ukraine. Listen here.
I'm very unhappy with them. There's no reason for this. It's turned out to be tougher. We get a lot of thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
So I know some MAGA Republicans are reluctant to help in Ukraine, but you got to understand Trump and what he's got going here. We have a deal with Ukraine that allows us to take rare earth minerals. In exchange, we'll help them out. Now, we've given them defensive weapons, and the goal is to end the war. That's Trump's goal, is to end the war. And I think he's getting fed up with Putin telling them one thing and doing another. So people say, well, we want America first. That's fine. But we also want to end these wars. Because if somebody in NATO gets drugged into this, then we have to go to war. So we want to end the war. So Trump is continuing his relationship with Putin, but he's also saying, look, end this war right now.
Give me 20 seconds each to finish this off here. Francesca?
While he may feel that Putin is tapping him along or whatever he said in the past about it, John, he still hasn't put sanctions on Russia. It's unclear if that's something he would do. When he was asked about that today, he said he'd consider the legislation in Congress, but he still hasn't done that.
Josh?
Look, I think to understand President Trump's foreign policies, to understand the modus operandi that he takes to all of these things, he takes the end goal first, and that's peace. Mm-hmm. And then the dynamic atmosphere that informs the tactics that he uses are not, that's not irrelevant to the process. I think there's a whole bunch of foreign policy establishment in Washington, D.C. forever that's just, you just say what the tactics are and you stick to them.
Yeah.
Not the way he views the world, obviously. And I think you're seeing this executed in a way that gives us a good chance.
I mean, he's done a lot of tough negotiations in real estate. He knows that, here's my goal. Now, what's the path to get there? So we'll see.
All right, guys, we talked about 3 issues today. Hopefully, Trump will be able to solve them all. We'll see. But we'll see you next time.